Alright, so the next thing to do is to crawl under here, and we're just going to replace this vacuum actuator and all of this whole assembly with a cover plate. I don't know if you can see that. There it is. But we're just going to replace this entire assembly with the cover plate. So the first thing you can do is go ahead and pull the vacuum lines. You won't need these anymore. And we'll go ahead and remove those in a little bit up at the top, and we'll cap any vacuum leaks off that you might have because of that. Alright, the socket for this was 11mm. Make sure you keep these bolts because you'll need those to put the cover back on. Then just use a hammer and knock that thing off. There's a little bit of oil residue left in there. I should have put a bucket down here. But there's the fork right there, and we won't need this anymore. You can also pull out the collar, which is that thing right there. You won't need that either. Alright, when I pulled that out, I noticed this collar right here. I don't know if you can see that very well. I don't remember that being in my other Jeep. I'm not sure if that has to come out or not, but when I stick the axle shaft in there, the axle shaft just barely fits through that other collar. So I'm going to leave it in and see what happens, but if you know anything about it, just let me know if that has to come out or not. I don't think it does, but we'll find out. So the next step is just to clean this off here before we install the new block off plate. Looks like there's a old cork seal right there, and I'll just go ahead and pull that off, and I'll clean it up a little bit. Alright, now that it's clean, I'll just apply a gasket all the way around, and then we'll put the block off plate on. Alright, now I'll just put these bolts in and tighten them down. While you're down here, you can also go ahead and remove this little shield that used to cover the vacuum motor if you'd like. And the shield. Alright, so the next step is just to reinstall the carrier in here. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and clean up the edges. And if you want to clean this out, just go ahead and spray some brake fluid in there and then wipe everything out real good. Also, if you plan on installing a locker anytime soon, now would be a good time to do that. So I'm just going to replace it as is. I'm just going to put everything back like it was. Make sure you put everything back on the same side that you got it from. Alright, now this bearing cap was marked with the number 2. That means right and top for me. And just make sure you get those back in the same position that you took them out of. Now this one is marked with a 1, and that goes on top and on the left. Alright, so the torque specs on these are 45 foot-pounds. Alright, now we'll just put some more RTV down. And then we'll put the cover back on. If I didn't mention this already, this would have been a good time to put in a locker or something like that. A new ring and pinion if you needed it. But for me, I'm not going to do that just yet. Alright, now these are 13mm. You want to make sure you start these by hand and then tighten them down in a crisscross pattern. Alright, we're not going to do this now because we have to wait for the gasket to dry a little bit, and we also have to wait until we put our axle shafts in. But once we do that, we need to fill this up with gear oil. If we don't do that, we'll be in a load of trouble. What we'll do is just fill that up with gear oil until it starts to spill out, and then put the cap back in. Make sure you don't forget that step. Alright, so since we disconnected some vacuum lines down there, we need to follow those up into the engine bay here and plug those up. To do that, I've got some of these vacuum hose plugs. This is an assortment, but what you need is 1/8 inch plugs. And if you follow that line up, what you'll end up with is this coming off of the axle, and you can pull that. This will go into some hard lines. If you follow those hard lines up, they come up right here into, looks like a green and yellow. So I'm just going to pull those. There we go. Oops, I accidentally pulled that white. We'll need to plug that one back up. Not sure where all these lines go. It's been so long since I've dealt with this. But this hard line here I can take out if I can get to it. Alright, I've got all those hoses off the hard line there. I can't pull it up, but maybe I'll be able to pull it down through the bottom. Yep, there it is. We won't need that anymore. Alright, so here's the rest of these lines. This yellow line, this green line. That blue line was like that. I don't know where that went to. But this white line went to here. Just make sure to connect everything back like it was and plug up the lines that you're not using anymore like this. For that, I'll just cut the green and the yellow and cap those off. There we go. Now in the future I might want to trace all these lines and figure out what I don't need and get rid of the rest as well. Now for that white line, it had a T on there and a one-way valve. Since we're not using the T anymore from the axle, I'm just going to go ahead and cut that one-way valve out, attach it back to where that went, along with the top of the T to the white line. I'm not sure what that goes to. I guess we'll find out later. Alright guys, now all you have to do is put your axle shafts back in, put your tie rod back on, and fill up your diff with gear oil, and you will be completely done. I'm not going to show you how to put your axle shafts back in because I have a video on that. I've got a video on tie rods, and to put the oil in, all you do is fill it up to here until it pours out and then cap it off. So it's pretty easy from here. Also, make sure if you're using a junkyard axle shaft like this one that you go ahead and replace the U-joints. You don't know how long those have been sitting in the junkyard, and they're probably bad anyway. Alright folks, don't forget to check out the website, BleepinJeep.com. I really appreciate it, and don't forget to subscribe. I hope you learned something today, and we'll see you next time.